Hello, I'm the Prime Minister of this debate, and our motion is that the House believes that peace is more important than justice. Peace refers to the absence of violence or conflict, especially after wars or major disputes. Justice refers to holding people accountable, punishments for wrongdoing, or restoring fairness. Our burden is that the burden is that we should that peace is actually a more flexible way of solving conflicts. So I'll start my speech. How is a conflict normally resolved? We most normally resolve conflicts by mutual agreements with talks and negotiations, or third party interventions like courts or authorities, or international disputes. In these processes, we believe that societies actually prioritize justice. Now, we'll now frame the points. Normally, a conflict is resolved conflict is resolved by justice, and we'll assume that our assumption is that approach to peace is better than justice for conflicts. Now, I'll go on my arguments. My first argument is that peace maximizes overall welfare and protects the greatest number of people. This means we prioritize the scale of impact and the severity of harm, and sustainability of outcomes on long-term stability. Justice focuses on correcting wrongs, like punishing perpetrators, delivering reparations, restoring fairness to victims. Meanwhile, peace, in contrast, focuses on stability by ending violence, preserving social order, and preventing further harm. Our mechanisms are as follows. When soc- so when societies prioritize peace, conflicts are settled through negotiation and compromise, and violence is stopped earlier. And resources are redirected from punishments and conflict to rebuilding and development. And when societies prioritize justice, there will be aggressive prosecution or retaliation for triggering resistance. And conflicts escalate into cycles of revenge. An entire population suffer from the sake of moral accountability. My impact are as follows. First, humanitarian impact. Peace saves lives and prevents mass suffering from happening. And second, social impact. Preserves trust, cooperation, and functional institutions. And third, my last impact is the intergenerational impact. Peace ensures future generations inherit stability rather than conflict and revenges. So these are the main reasons. This is my argument, and these are the reasons why the government should prioritize peace and justice. Thank you for listening.
Hanno, peace without justice is like a house built on sand that's need to crumble. But justice without peace builds foundations for generations. So proud to stand in opposition. First part of my speech, the rebuttals to proposition side. Firstly, Hanno, proposition claims that peace automatically maximizes welfare and protects the greatest number. Now, this is deeply flawed for three short key reasons. Firstly, peace without justice is often superficial and temporary. Secondly, proposition ignores distributional effects. And thirdly, proposition assumes peace and justice are mutually exclusive, but evidence shows justice actually enhances welfare. Now, secondly, proposition conflates short-term calm with long-term stability. Peace imposed without justice is unstable and often leads to renewed conflict. And also, proposition offers no mechanism for lasting peace. Peace without accountability is temporary and fragile, while justice can actually be also create peace in the long run. Now, second part of my speech, the framing for opposition side here. First piece of framing, just the definition of the debate. Justice is fair treatment and accountability, while peace is meaningful only if it is just. Second piece of framing, the status quo. The status quo shows that peace without justice often sows future conflicts. As in Tarian regimes, and unresolved conflicts. Third piece of framing stakeholders include the stakeholders. The stakeholders include in this debate include oppressed populations, governments, and future generations. And last piece of framing the burden on opposition side. The burden on our side is to prove justice is essential for sustainable peace. And if we succeed, we win this debate. No, thank you. Now, third part of my speech, moving on to my argument. My first argument is why is justice essential for sustainable peace? 5 reasons why that's true. Firstly, justice prevents recurring conflicts. Grievances left unresolved lead to cycles of violence. Secondly, justice builds legitimacy. Peace imposed without accountability is often rejected. Thirdly, justice protects human rights. Peace without justice tolerates oppression. Fourthly, justice strengthens institutions. The rule of law resolves disputes without violence. And lastly, justice encourages social cohesion. Fairness fosters trust and cooperation. Two real life examples to highlight here. In South Africa, the Truth Commission enabled lasting peace, and in Rwanda post-genocide, justice mechanisms stabilized society after initial failures of peace-first approach. Two impacts to highlight here. Firstly, it prevents future conflict, and secondly, it creates durable social and political structures. Why is this argument debate winning? Peace without justice is fragile, and justice is the foundation on which peace can endure, so it's better in the long run. My second argument is that how does peace without justice harm societies? Firstly, it legitimizes oppression, allowing authoritarian regimes to maintain control. Secondly, it creates resentment, which inevitably leads to rebellion or unrest, which creates war and and less peace in the long run. Thirdly, it undermines global security, as unresolved grievances can trigger regional or international conflicts. There are some two real life examples to highlight here. Firstly, the Treaty of Versailles in 1999. Peace imposed without justice eventually started World War II. And secondly, the Syrian conflict. Ceasefires without addressing injustice failed to resolve underlying causes, which cause more conflict in the long run. Two impacts to highlight here. Firstly, it encourages authoritarian control, and secondly, it provokes future wars and instability. This argument is winning because the risks of unjust peace are predictable, severe, and preventable, making proposition's position inherently dangerous. Now, I'll explain. Oh wait, you know what? In conclusion, panel, for these reasons, justice is not secondary; it's the foundation of lasting peace. So proud to oppose. Thank you.
Hello, I'm the second speaker of proposition, and before I get into my argument, I would like to brief you to the first speaker of opposition. So the first speaker of opposition said that justice first prevents future conflicts by addressing root cause immediately. So justice cannot address roots because in an unstable environment, root causes like grievance, inequality, violations require stable institutions and trust to be addressed effectively. In the absence of peace, attempts to resolve underlying issues are overshadowed by ongoing violence and survival priorities. Therefore, justice applied in turmoil fails to transform structural problems. It may enrich deeper division. They also said that peace without justice is hollow and superficial. Well, I refute saying that peace without initial justice is not strategic, not superficial. Peace is the precondition that creates a space in which meaningful justice becomes possible. Without peace, justice is often becomes symbolic or arbitral because enforcement mechanisms are broken. And prioritizing peace allows justice to be substantive rather than performative. And they also said that justice deters future wrongdoing more effectively than peace alone. And I refute by saying that deterrence mechanisms only work in stable environments. To deter wrongdoing, institutions must become system predictable and respected, and conditions absent in conflict. In unstable settings, punitive actions often provoke retaliation rather than deterrence, and peace first creates stability needed for deterrence to operate effectively through law enforcement and fair adjudication. So now on my last refutation. So they said that justice may come first to prevent impunity and lawlessness, and I refute by saying justice without peace is ineffective. So in unstable conflict-ridden situations, attempts to enforce justice often provoke retaliation and escape violence. Without a stable society, courts, law enforcement, and regulation bodies cannot function reliably, making justice attempts incomplete or arbitrary. So now I'll move on to my argument. So my argument is about the principle peace is universal and stabilizing. The premise is that that peace is more important than justice because it is foundational condition for a functioning society, and without it, justice becomes impossible. Justice, whether moral, legal, or social, assumes a stable environment in which institutions, laws, and social norms can operate effectively in the midst of conflict or unrest. Attempts to enforce justice often provoke retaliation, revenge, or escalation, as I have said in my refutation, creating cycles of violence that undermine society and render any pursuit of justice meaningless. So, what does this mean? So my first mix are about when society prioritizes peace, group agrees to coexist despite unresolved disagreements, and the moral disputes are deterred in favor of stability, and the dialogue replaces confrontation. And while when society prioritizes justice, competing claims of justice clash, and groups radius and refuse compromise, and the conflicts become ideological and existence. So, what are the impacts? My main impact is about political impact, social impact, and structural impact. So, the political impact: peace prevents ideological extremism and civil wars, which means that without the peace, you cannot actually think directly and think that, oh, what is best for the citizens, what is best for my country, but instead only think about war. And the social impact is that the peace allows diverse groups to coexist despite unresolved moral disputes, and the structural impact is that peace sustains pluralistic societies where justice cannot be unanimously divided. So now, what is my comparative? So comparative on why we want this debate. So feasibility: peace is actionable, justice conditional. Our position: peace can be achieved if even under unstable conditions through negotiation, temporary ceasefires, or conflict management. While the opposition, they say that pursuing justice first assumes stable institutions, as I've said in my reputations, functional government, and predictable assistance, conditions that rarely exist in ongoing conflict. We show that peace is immediately actionable, while justice first approaches are often impractical and risks falling out. Right. So this is why I'm so proud to propose. Thank you for listening to my speech.
Panel, imagine a world where everyone feels safe and respected. That's what we all want, right? But can we actually achieve true peace without addressing the unfairness around us? While some people think that ignoring justice will lead to a quick fix, this approach often creates more problems in the long run. In this speech, I'll explain why it's crucial to focus on justice so we can create a stronger, happier community for everyone. Hello, my name is Kim, and as the second speaker of the opposition team, I strongly oppose the topic. This house believes that peace is more important than justice. In my speech, I'll be delivering 2 reasons why justice is more important than peace. Starting with building, then rebuttal, then my argument. Starting with rebuilding. Our opponent rebutted that peace without justice is not superficial, but peace without justice isn't real peace. It's just a pause before more trouble. When unfairness is ignored, people stay angry and hurt, which can lead to fight against. Now continue with going on to my rebuttals. My opponent claims that peace is the foundation of justice. But what I think that is not true, because peace without justice isn't again, peace without justice isn't real peace. Peace without not accepted. Peace without justice is not real peace. When people feel they have been treated unfairly, which can lead to problems later. But using justice and applying punishments on the peoples who cause unpeace, makes the world not peaceful. When they get punished, it solves the problem from the root. Now, moving on to my argument. Peace without justice is fragile. My first reason is to have real peace, we must first fix unfairness. And justice is the key to making that happen. When people feel treated unfairly, it creates a divide and leads to more conflict. If justice is served, but there's no peace, if peace is served and there's no justice, the situation can quickly become unstable. For instance, if a certain person is punished because they make the situation not peaceful, and real peace can't take hold. Justice helps address these inequalities and show that everyone is valued, laying the groundwork for a peaceful society. Only by ensuring fairness and justice can we create a non-harm environment where unity thrives and lasting peace is possible. My second reason is focusing only on peace without looking at fairness makes it hard to solve conflicts. For example, in the Israel and Palestine conflict, peace talks often fail because they ignore important issues like land disputes and past injustice. Many Palestinians feel hurt about losing their land, while many Israels want safety and recognition. If we don't address these feelings, peace efforts can lead to more frustration. By listening to both sides and recognizing their concerns, we can create a better solution that respects everyone. Fairness is the key to building true peace and making a better future for all. My argument is important because addressing both peace and fairness is essential for building a stronger and united community. When we ignore fairness, we leave conflicts unresolved, which can lead to hurt feelings, protests, and even more violence. By focusing on justice, we're not only to help those who have been treated unfairly, but also promote understanding and respect among everyone. This leads to a happier and more peaceful world for all of us, which everyone feels valued and heard. Panel, this is why you should support the opposition team. Thank you.
Judge, I like to disagree with the ops claim, saying peace without justice cannot happen, and saying that justice is the prerequisite of peace. Also, their whole thesis on how justice is the prerequisite of peace, right? This is simply not true, and I will add just later in my class. So perhaps propose. So going straight into refutations, they've mentioned how peace without justice is not real peace. Justice requires stability, functioning institutions, and safe environment to operate effectively. So without peace, attempts to enforce justice and often violent or incomplete, which undermines the real justice, right? So therefore, establishing peace first does not ignoring justice, even though we accept opposition's case to the most fullest extent, is creating the conditions where true meaningful justice can actually exist. Secondly, on peace they mentioned how peace without justice is fragile. First, it does not undermine the value of peace. Peace, even if it's fragile, just imitate the harm and stabilize society, which is crucial for saving lives and preventing systemic collapse, right? So justice cannot exist in a violent environment. So fragile peace is still more functional and necessary, even though we do accept opposition's case to the full extent. Next, on saying that how focusing peace often fails because it ignores important issues. Peace creates the conditions to actually address important issues. The opposition assumes that justice and systemic problems can be resolved immediately, even in violent and unstable environments, that I keep on repeating. There are whole cases on this. In reality, ongoing conflict prevents meaningful problem-solving peace, even though temporarily stops immediate harm and stabilize society. Giving space to address deeper issues is systemically not stable, right? So going straight into clashes, government wins because peace is the prerequisite of justice and existing of meaningful, fair, and enforceable form, while the opposition side is completely mistaken the treaties of justice and something as saying that being imposed is regardless of social conditions. In unstable and violent contexts, justice first approach is not only difficult to implement but effectively dangerous. Attempts to prosecute or punish wrongdoers or criminals just often provoke bad things. It's just causing more backlash and revenge, and it's not going to really solve the conflicts, which further weakens the fragility of the institutions, infrastructures, etc. in the government, right? Government demonstrates it without peace, courts, laws, and formats, and the body cannot really operate properly if we can't achieve this. Additionally, government successfully reframes a moral critique in the peace, where first we allow the criminals to escape punishment by showing how accountability is delayed, not abandoned, by securing peace creates. But because on government side, we actually secure peace, and it's creating the conditions for justice. It's credible and not biased and sustainable, rather than being rash and vengeful, being really, really violent, right? This directly undercuts opposition's claim, since the deterrence depends on the consistent lives, and therefore government wins on the justice, which wins on the claim on how peace is the prerequisite of justice, which actually deters wrongdoing on injures. Therefore, government wins on feasibility. Additionally, impact magnitude and long-term outcomes. This model only realistically is exclusively happening on government side, achieves on both peace first and saying that the prerequisite of justice is peace. So therefore, we win over the first clash. On how the second clash is on how opposition misunderstands what the government side is actually trying to show in this debate. Prioritizing peace does not mean only peace or ignoring problems, but actually saying peace is the prerequisite, and before achieving peace before resolving these justice problems. Government wins because peace functions as a stabilizing framework, and this makes a problem-solving problems in the first place. In a deeply divided societies, justice and moral disputes are subjectively contested. So in different groups holding incompatible views and different perspectives, it's really important. Peace, by contrast, has a clear, more universal meaning is that ending violence and preserving coexistence, right? So allowing groups to live together despite this unresolved disagreements. By prioritizing peace, societies defer model disputes temporarily, and like we actually can do which whereas on the opposite side they only focus on justice approach risk is actually on, as I proved well, it's really like risky, right? So crucially, peace does not block problem solving. It enables it by like sustaining institution social trust, and without peace attempts to solve problems collapse in like instantly, and like instability with escalating more into bigger problems. So therefore government side wins on both clashes because peace is not an obstacle to resolving problems but the necessary condition, which is the prerequisite of justice, that, and allows disagreements to be managed, negotiated, and eventually resolved without destroying society itself, actually achieving both peace and justice at the end of the day. So I had to propose. Thank you.
Imagine that you are a victim in a war, and after that, do you hope to receive a world with justice, and a stable country, or do you wish to live in a world with only peace, that the government only hides the unpleasant past, but do not punish the wrongdoers that once brought you harm? So, hello everyone. As the web speaker from the opposition side, we firmly believe that justice is more important than peace. So I will first move on to my rebuttal for my opponent's argument and then to my clash analysis. So firstly, the proposition side believe that the peace can be more important because peace maximizes the overall welfare and it can protect more people. However, peace without justice can be very fragile and it can cause more violence later. Because the armed groups see that there will not be any punishment for them, and they are only the peace deals. So that if the deal lets violent leaders stay strong, people will still be threatened, even if the war stops. And secondly, so that our opponent's first argument doesn't stand. And secondly, our opponents believe that peace is beneficial for the universal stability. However, peace without justice can lead to the reborn of rebel and no, thank you. So as I have mentioned in my rebuttal, and this peace is really fragile. So that however, we can use justice, or even combine peace and justice, and peace can be part of the justice plan, for example, truth-telling, fair rules, and steps of punishment. So ignoring justice is what makes the peace weak, so that the justice can be more important, and the proposition's two arguments is not true. And now moving to my clash analysis. No, thanks. So moving on to my clashes. We believe that the first clash in this debate is about time frame and stability, whether which side promotes a more stable world. So the proposition side believe that it is beneficial for the universal stabilize, while the opposition side believe that peace without justice is fragile and justice is essential for the sustainable peace. And we win this clash because well, it is similarly to my rebuttal. Peace can make chaos to happen again, which is truly unstable. Wait a second, and it is truly unstable and justice, as what my teammate has explained, is the most essential for this sustainable peace. And what's your POI?
Yeah, thank you. So didn't we mention how we need peace to make laws? Because we need about 1 month to make a law. But like, because it's a post-conflict area, we do not have to like do it one stable week. So justice is not the ones who is stronger, not weaker, but peace is not even biased. So like, I don't think you're like strawmanning. I think you're strawmanning our point.
Yeah, so our side is not saying that peace is not important, but we are thinking that justice is more important than peace. So that as I already said, we can combine the peace and justice, and peace can be one part of justice, so that there are time, like for example 1 month, to to implement this law. So now moving on to my second clash. So we believe that the second clash in this debate is about which side and which world can maximum the benefit to the citizens. So that the proposition side believe that peace can protect more people and it can protect more welfare. And the opposition side believe that it can bring more harm to society. Well, we win this clash because peace can make rebels and chaos to reborn, and leading to more harm, more deaths, and more family breaking. So that judge, our world is stronger, and it can happen in a reality. So that please, judge, please vote for the opposition side. Thank you.
Panel, peace without justice is like a mask. It hides problems, but it doesn't solve them in the long run. So proud to stand in opposition. First part of my reply speech is that I'll be reinforcing my arguments. Our first argument is, why is justice essential for lasting peace? Justice prevents recurring conflict and builds legitimacy. When populations see fairness and accountability, peace is accepted, maintained, and durable. Two impacts to highlight here. Firstly, it reduces the likelihood of future conflict, and secondly, it creates a resilient, cohesive society. And the second argument that I mentioned is that the dangers of peace without justice. Peace without justice harms society. It legitimizes oppression, fosters resentment, and risks future instability. As I said in my examples, the Treaty of Versailles and the Syrian ceasefires are perfect examples of how justice can create peace in the long run, but peace is only short term. And the two impacts you highlight here is that it encourages authoritarianism, and it provokes future wars and instability. And so the second part of my reply speech is why opposition weighs more in this debate. Justice ensures durable, resilient, and legitimate peace. Proposition's peace-first approach prioritizes short-term calm over long-term stability, creating a fragile and unsafe foundation. The debate comes down to this. Lasting peace requires justice. Without it, peace is only temporary, fragile, and often harmful. With justice, peace becomes sustainable, fair, and credible. In conclusion, for these reasons, justice is essential to lasting peace. And I'm so proud to oppose. Thank you.
Hosts and judges and observers and debaters. In this debate, we have demonstrated that peace must come before justice because it is the foundational condition of any functioning society. Our argument has shown that prioritizing peace halts immediate violence, preserves human life, and stabilizes institutions, creating the environment in which justice can be pursued fairly and sustainably. Without peace, attempts at justice are impractical, often provoke retaliation, and risk systematic collapse. By establishing peace first, societies can break cycles of revenge, maintain social cohesion, and ensure that justice, when pursued, is effective rather than destructive. The opposition argued that justice should come first to prevent impunity or deter wrongdoing. However, their framework is flawed. Justice cannot be operated in a violent or unstable environment. Enforcement mechanisms collapse, institutions lose legitimacy, and retaliation escalates, producing far more harm than good. We have shown that delaying justice strategically until peace is secured is not abandoning justice, but ensuring that it is credible, enforceable, and meaningful. Peace is not a compromise on ethics. It's a prerequisite for ethical action. Ultimately, we won this debate because we focused on practicality, safety, and sustainability. Our approach saves lives, protects social order, and preserves the very conditions necessary for justice to exist. The opposition's justice first approach, by contrast, risks escalation, institutional failure, and ongoing suffering. By demonstrating that peace is both urgent and foundational, we have proven that a society cannot pursue justice without first securing the environment in which justice can't function. We all want to live on a world where conflicts are solved peacefully, not punishing them and making a cycle of revenge come back. Peace comes first, and then only then can justice truly follow. Thank you for listening. So proud to propose.